With temperatures rising, a trip to Nuwara might be on your to-do list this month. Check out Moon Plains or Sandathanna, about 2 kilometers away from the town. It's quite exhilarating, an unobstructed 360-degree view of the tallest peaks in the region, breathing in the cleanest air and embraced by the freshest of winds. With that little trip to Moon Plains, welcome to Kaleidoscope, where we are positive, daring and different. A massive thank you to our partners on the show, Srilanka Live, CDB, The Daily Morning and Made by Her. If you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can now start a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit and experience a range of special benefits from CDB.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot. Starting with some good news, Sri Lanka's inflation decelerates to 33.6% year-on-year in April compared to 49.2% in March. Food inflation is also down to 27.1% in April with 42.3% reported in March. Tea exports from January to April clock in at $407 million, an 11% uptick, with April earnings soaring by 16% to $93 million. Sri Lanka's apparel exports, however, in April contracts by 24% to $380 million, the sharpest year-on-year contraction for the year thus far. The largest water project in Sabaragamo, the Kagalla Aranayaka Asupini Ella water scheme, is launched this week, providing drinking water to 52,000 families. No more selfies. Locals in Holstadt, Austria set up a wooden fence to block the view of its snow-capped mountains to deter selfie-taking tourists. It's $6,380 per serving. This Japanese ice cream, byakuya, is the most expensive in the world, with truffles, sake leaves and Parmigiano Reggiano added to the mix. This Sunday, pop on over to the RCCI charity sale in aid of children with special needs and pick up some great second-hand reads, artworks and handmade wrapping paper, greeting cards, pottery, cloth and gift bags made by the special needs students themselves. That's this Sunday and don't miss it.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Seven years ago, the Sri Lankan rupee was trading between 142 and 145, but then it devalued to the 150 level by December that year. Fast forward to last year, by end March and May, the rupee plummeted to 360 and by end 2022 to 370, with expectations it would rise to 400. But the turnaround came from February this year, appreciating to 305 rupees levels. Strict import restrictions and the increase in foreign remittances did play a part in bolstering the Sri Lankan rupee. To get some gen on the reasons and impacts for this rapid appreciation, I have on the show today Head of Research of CAL and Chartered Financial Analyst Trisha Perez. Trisha, we've been seeing the rupee appreciating considerably in the last 2 weeks. What is this due to?
One large reason, of course, is that Sri Lanka has suspended its external debt repayments. This is not a new factor. This happened last year in 2022, April. But this, of course, has meant that it has reduced a lot of the usual outflow pressure that would have generally been seen in terms of the currency. Another outflow pressure is, of course, in terms of our import expenditure. But what we can see is that our import bill has actually reduced compared to, for example, what we were experiencing at the same period last year. The global commodity prices, which were at very, very high levels last year as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war that was just starting at that time, now you have seen a lot more of a normalization. For example, fuel, which is one of our big import items. Last year, crude oil was being sold at about $110 to $120 a barrel. Right now, it's hovering at about $75 a barrel. So this has really helped in terms of reducing our import bill on a price perspective, but also in terms of a volume perspective, because of how tough the economic crisis has been, how severe the depreciation in the last year alone has been. This has, of course, created a dampener in terms of demand condition. You're also seeing that inflows have also improved quite a bit. So exports are seeing a little bit of a tough situation right now, but we are seeing remittances, for example. Tourism also has helped in that aspect. So basically what you're seeing is that your dollar inflows are greater than your outflows. So when there is more appreciation happening, you also see, for example, certain exporters getting a little bit worried that the rate of the rupee is coming down, and they kind of start to panic convert, and this makes that appreciation happen a little bit faster as well, and in some cases can tend to overshoot. So I think part of the reason is that inflows are greater than outflows, but also you're seeing a little bit of panic conversion happening that is maybe causing it to overshoot a little bit and see that level kind of going below 300 at the moment.
So how can Sri Lanka balance the appreciation so it won't ricochet on the ultimate goal of growing our foreign exchange reserves?
So we need to make sure right now that the central bank is actually going in and maybe buying in some of these excess dollars that you're seeing in the market. They've, of course, taken an awful lot of controls in terms of, say, for example, cash margin on imports and in terms of the surrender requirements. But because of this excess amount of inflows, central bank, I think, needs to be at a point right now where they actually go into the market and start purchasing. So right now, when we're seeing this very high level of appreciation, it's a good time for the central bank to also go in and purchase those dollars, which in effect balances the excessive appreciation that's happening right now and also helps them meet their reserves target and shoring up reserves. So it's better to do this sooner rather than later, because we also have to eventually start making some of these large repayments. So you need to make sure there is a balance where we're not overly kind of importing and sending that, demand pressure back into the system, and the central bank also starts kind of purchasing dollars from the market. So it has to be really balanced in that manner. So I think it's a good point right now for central bank to start entering and buying up those dollars to shore up their reserves at these kind of rates.
And here's what our markets are looking like this week. It was another lackluster week at the Colombo Stock Exchange, with high local interest rates leading to the all-share price index dropping slightly, while average daily turnover levels remained close to a low 500 million rupees. Oil prices rose slightly to $73.50 per barrel after the Saudi energy minister warned of further OPEC Plus output cuts. As the US dollar weakened, gold prices remained steady at close to $2,000 per ounce. It is 1,100 years old and sold for $38.1 million. The world's oldest and most complete Hebrew Bible, known as the Codex Sassoon, is the most valuable book ever sold at an auction. So if you were to look at the evening sky these days, you might catch a glimpse of what is called the Da Vinci glow, which occurs when the crescent moon is on the horizon, but the outline of the full moon is also visible. Take a trip to Quito, the capital of Ecuador. The old town was founded in 1534 by the Spanish, and every street leads to an architectural marvel. No wonder it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world, it may become difficult for us as human beings to see the brighter side of things. Yet, we're always told that the good things are around the corner and we must keep believing. But what if this thought process is wrong? Visiting Sri Lanka on a short sojourn is an entrepreneur, trainer, coach and educator from Canada. While he has worked around the world in sustainable development and renewable energy, his interest, however, is in combining the teachings of Buddhism with neuroscience, being a connector for ethical business, and presenting a new paradigm of being, that of mindfulness and awareness. So how does this fit into the modern day of work? Lalitananda Gunaratna, who we most often know as Lefty, joins me in the studio today. Lefty, welcome. Good to have you on the show. Now, you call mindfulness a terminal case of uncertainty. But then we are also told to believe in the absolutism of certainty.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes. This is a 600-year-old experiment, really, that started by separating the mind and the body, because the spiritual side of things and the technology side of things, science and technology, went in two directions after Galileo was imprisoned and the church went against the scientific thinking. So they called it a truce, and they have gone on a separate trajectory. So it's been a 600-year-old experiment where we have separated the consciousness and the physical body and the mind, which now is creating problems for us, because we have separated ourselves from nature. And when we do that, we are going to develop technologies that's going to hurt nature. And our arrogance also comes from us wanting to subjugate and control nature. So this is where the uncertainty comes in. Nature is uncertain, nature is imperfect, but we are trying to use technologies to will our way through and power our way through to control things. And nature is going to win at the end of the day.
So how does this fit in to the modern way of doing business using technology, as you say?
This technology, now more and more people are realizing the folly of separating technology with everything else, with nature. Because we are seeing nature changing around us and nature getting angry at us human beings for what we are doing. So we have no choice now but to acknowledge the fact that we have to think about the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, because we have now seen the results of the poisoning that we have done. By poisoning the earth, we have poisoned ourselves. So that's where the new thinking of, well, corporate responsibility started talking about those things in terms of sustainability.
So you say we should reroute our brains into thinking beyond what the world has imposed on us. Now, when you're caught up in this world's rat race, like you said, isn't that easier said than done?
Yes and no. No, because all I am practicing is mindfulness based on an ancient practice. Vedic and Buddhist practices are there, and these contemplative and reflective practices are there in every religion and every spiritual practice too. So here's all I'm asking to do is to go and focus on your breath. Our breath is our life force. When we focus on our breath, we slow everything down. We slow our metabolism down. What I have done is I have got a hold of my mind by focusing on the breath. So I've connected that separated mind and body through the breath. And then when my mind and body align, then I have the most amount of power. I have the most amount of clarity. I have a peace of mind. I can see things clearly.
How can human beings find inner peace if we are to embrace uncertainty? Now, doesn't peace typically come from stability?
No, because the natural world is uncertain. Nature is totally uncertain. It's volatile, it's ambiguous. We have no control over it.
Thank you for your words of wisdom. Good lessons to take with us as we move along in this very uncertain life. There was a palpable buzz at the British Council last week. 8 long-listed authors, poets and playwrights talked of their inspirations at the shortlist of the Grecian Prize, now in its 30th year. The jury was led by internationally acclaimed writer Ramesh Gunasekara and members Sukanya Vignaraja and Kaushalya Pereira, who picked the 4 shortlisters. Here's the exciting moment when the shortlist was announced by Sukanya Vignaraja on Made by Her Life in 60.
A book of poems that combine the personal with larger issues in a fresh, distinctive voice. Flowers teach me to let go. A book of stories that gave us glimpses of contemporary life, that stayed with us and grew stronger with every reading. Keeping Time by Savithri Rodrigo. A book that stood out for its range and control. A poet who is deeply involved in her art and is able to engage the reader with it. Samsara by Savithri Rodrigo. This is a book that did take us by surprise, urgent and sharp, combining superheroes with contemporary issues. The Wretched and the Damned by Yudhanja Vijayaraghavan.
So that's my next month's reading list sorted. Take a trip or two this weekend and we'll be back next week.